Dear students, it is the second video of week 14 lesson 27, and in this video we'll precisely cover the crops variety in Pakistan, time and types. Well, dear students, there are two major objectives and tasks for agriculture in Pakistan. Number one, providing the food to its citizens, to the native areas, food supply, local food supply to its own inhabitants. Number two, to produce enough food to export and sustain the economy of Pakistan. So these two major objectives have to be looked meticulously कि इनको बड़े ही अहमियत के साथ जो है वो देखा जाना चाहिए, and there must be a very there should be a very strong policy because it is truly the backbone of Pakistan's economy. Well, as the experts think that Pakistan has a huge untapped potential for grabbing significant share of the world's agro-food exports. Well, there are so many benefits that this economy or this sector brings to Pakistani people. Number one, that it engages most of Pakistani nationals clear and provides them food. You find this that people in Punjab, KPK, Sindh, and even in northern areas and Kashmir cultivate and they work in fields, and this is how they manage their livelihood. Secondly, it provides in variety the fresh vegetables. As compared to West, vegetables, prices and other things are much controlled and we enjoy the variety of food. Number three, this sector adds more exchequer and assistance to Pakistani economy. Well, we'll discuss in detail all the remaining benefits, yet our purpose right this moment is to express about the crops. Well, we can divide crops in four types. Two are major and two are secondary. Number one, there are crops which cash crops, food crops, non-food crops, vegetables, fruits, cereals, and medicinal plants. So they are the biodiversity of Pakistan. Number one, I told the major crops, food crops, or second cash crops, and then the other crops, find like medicinal plants and others. In crop regions, you can find out on the map the regions. The crops can be divided into two. Kharif and we divide the crops into Rabi and Kharif. Clear? The crops which are uh, cultivated into different seasons. Kharif is an Arabic word. Uh, let Pakistan has a variety of landforms. You have seen here that I explained the variety of the soil and other things. Pakistan has the variety of landforms and climate. Therefore, we experience two seasons for cropping. Number one, summer season and the winter. Fine. And these two seasons known as Rabi and Kharif. Rabi crops are usually called as winter crops, whereas Kharif crops are called the summer crops. These crops are sown in October and November after the monsoon rainy season and start winter. Fine. Let's have. And another type is called Zaid crops. Zaid crops, there is also a short season between season of Kharif and Rabi in the month between March to July. The crops that cultivate in this season are called Zaid crops. These crops are grown on irrigated lands. The characteristics of these crops is that they don't have to wait for monsoon. They require warm and dry weather for growth and longer day length for flowering. For example, of the Zaid types of crops are pumpkin, cucumber, bitter ground, brassica. Clear? Means in Urdu I will tell you खीरा, चुकंदर, मीन मोस्ट ऑफ द वेजिटेबल लाइक ब्रासिका, सरसों का ऑयल. फाइन. ये जो मौसम है सर्दियों और गर्मियों के दरमियान में जो इंटरवल आता है, तो इस मौसम में जो क्रॉप्स हैं उन्हें हम लोग कहते हैं क्रॉप्स. नाउ लेट मी हैव अ डिटेल अबाउट खरीफ. Fine. As I told in the beginning, you have seen here, now we look at the crops division. Crops can be divided into three. Food crops. These crops include wheat, maize, rice, millet and pulses. मिसाल के तौर पे गंदम है, जवार है, बाजरा है, चावल हैं और इसके अलावा मुख्तलिफ़ किस्म की दालें जो हैं ये फूड क्रॉप्स में होती हैं कि जो क्रॉप्स हम अपनी डे टू डे लाइफ में एज अ डाइट यूज़ करते हैं. नंबर टू, कैश क्रॉप्स. वो क्रॉप्स जो हमारे फूड का हिस्सा तो नहीं होती, लेकिन हम उन क्रॉप्स में उनके ज़रिए ज़र मुबादला कमाते हैं और दे आर यूज इन बाय प्रोडक्ट्स. वो एज अ बाय प्रोडक्ट यूज होती हैं. क्लियर? फॉर सम अदर वे दैट बेनिफिट देम, किसी और तरीके से डायरेक्ट हम ग़िज़ा के तौर पर नहीं लेते बल्कि किसी और तरीके से इंसानों को वो फ़ायदा देती हैं. इन कैश क्रॉप में शुगर केन है, टोबैको, तम्बाकू, कॉटन, जूट यानी पटसन एंड ऑयल सीड्स. ये कैश क्रॉप्स. क्या शुगर केन जो है दैट प्रोड्यूसेस द बाय प्रोडक्ट्स लाइक चीनी बनती है, मोलेसिस गुड़ बनता है उससे और बहुत सारी बाय प्रोडक्ट्स जो हैं वो शुगर केन से बन जाती हैं. इवन के इसके छिलके को मुख्तलिफ चीज़ों के गत्ते और ये हार्ड शीट्स बनाने के लिए भी बाज़ जगह यूज़ किया जाता है. टोबैको आपको पता है इसका एक ओनली यूज़ है to have recreation and enjoyment because it contains the nicotine. इसके में अंदर निकोटीन होती है that is a chemical which somehow tranquilizes the mind. Fine. Cotton. Indeed, Pakistan was once the main uh, producer of the cotton in the world, and still Pakistan has the capacity. Purchase jute and oilseed like brassica and uh, soya bean, सूरजमुखी एंड मैनी अदर, ये बहुत सारे ऑयल्स जो हैं, ये सीड्स जो हैं जिनसे मुख्तलिफ़ किस्म के लुब्रिकेंट्स तैयार किए जाते हैं. दे आर फूड यूजेज इन different food varieties and many others. Then there are other plantation crops. Fine. The crops which are plants, they are not taken as food but they are cash crops. वो cash crops में ही आ जाते हैं. जैसे coffee, they are after some process coffee is used and coffee is taken as uh, the very important element and it is used widely in the West as a culture. Coconut, tea, rubber, clear. Another crop that in Pakistan nowadays people are producing saffron, clear, and they are also producing in some areas they are producing olive crops. जिसे जैतून का तेल कहते हैं. They are also produce these crops. Clear? Then other crops include vegetables. There are direct, they are cash crops as well as they are the food crops. We Pakistan has got a variety of vegetables like cucumber, cauliflower, brinjal, bangan, kaddu, tomato, dhania, and there are lots of things that are produced in Pakistan, and there are specific regions that all produce these areas. Well, dear students, now through this map, I would love to explain you that how these areas are produces. Well, first number one, cotton and wheat. These areas that are in green shade, you are looking at your screens, they are called cotton and wheat. Most of these areas that produce cotton and wheat, they are the Punjab, and as I think it is Sargodha, Faisalabad, Miawal, Kushab, Fine, and Rahim Yar Khan, Bahawalpur, Muzaffargarh, Multan. These areas are the areas for cotton and wheat. Because why these areas are specifically cotton and wheat? Because, and the next is the parts of Sindh according to these areas of Sindh, districts of Sindh are special for cotton and wheat. Why? Because here these two crops, cotton and wheat, they need more. They need more water. Fine, and they have to stay for the longer years. And these crops are very important. Clear? And the seasons of these crops start between in summer season. And these areas are also important for the producing of the sugar cane. They are the paradise of the sugar cane, and you find most of the sugar factories are in this area. Fine. The next thing is rice wheat. Rice wheat areas in Punjab, you have seen here Gujranwala, Sialkot, Narowal. These areas include the rice wheat. Mixed crops, these areas are like Sargodha and Kushab and other, these areas which are in the between the Jhelum river and the Chenab river and the Ravi river. These areas have the mixed ability because the land and the soil property allows them to have all kind of crops, just they need to work on. Pulses and wheat. These areas, which are normally are rain-fed areas, fine. Potowar region, including Chakwal, Miawali, खुशाब, अटक, here दालें और गंदम के लिए these areas are important. Maize, wheat, oil seed. These areas upper this, they are also the maize seed and others. Maize and wheat areas fine. Makai or gandam के areas mean the upper area like Chitral and the northern areas. These are areas. Orchard vegetable wheat. Orchards here, orchard means these areas where एक ऐसी फलों की किस्म होते हैं जो बेलों पर मुश्तमिल होते हैं, उन्हें ऑर्चर्ड बोलते हैं. जैसे अंगूर है और डिफरेंट किस्म के फल हैं, जैसे तरबूज है, तो ये वीड्स हैं, क्लियर ऑर्चर्ड टाइप हैं. तो इनके लिए दीज एरियाज एंड पेरी अर्बन अराउंड कोएटा, फाइन. So these areas are there in dry. Thank you very much, dear students. I have covered the aspects of the wheat and the wheat different areas where the crops are produced. In the next, we will talk about the major crops in detail. Thank you very much.